Hello. Sorry if there's noise in the background, but it is what it is. So in the last episode, we created these endless falling Tetris blocks, but you can see that they wobble and tilt. Now, obviously, there are Tetris-like games that use the tetraminos and wobble and tilt. Uh, but the physics Tetris games have never been very popular, and it's not what we're building. What we're trying to go for is a more Tetris-like atmosphere. So we're going to actually build all of the constraints and code that we need to make these physics blocks behave. And the first way to do that is to go into these tetraminos, and you can see that they've got all these rigid bodies. Well, rigid bodies have this constraint. So what we're going to do is we're going to freeze the constraints in all of the places we're going to need to do that. Now, I can do this individually, but since I have Pro, I can also do it all at once. I don't know whether or not you guys can do this without Pro. I haven't checked. If not, just do it individually. It's no biggie. So, by freezing all of the rotations and the Z position, we make it so that the blocks won't ever tip. And you can see that they still behave just fine on the X and Y axes, but they no longer tilt or fall off the front. But they still bounce and all that jazz. So our next step is going to make them prefer to be in integer increments, and then after that we will do the rotation. Um, but that'll probably be next episode because it's not entirely as simple as it sounds. All right. By the way, you can get rather impossible pileups using physics constraints just because we refuse to let the things tilt, which means that it can't fall off here because it's tilted. Alright, so let's go ahead and program in some preference for an integer position into these blocks. We're going to do that by opening up the block controller in MonoDevelop. Yay, cross your fingers, sometimes it works. I don't need that. Alright, so we have this update where in this update we force the velocity to be equal to the horizontal axis. But what we actually want to do is we want to, even after the person is done with pressing left or pressing right, we want to force the block to continue to try and go left or right until it is at an integer position. So what we're going to do is we're going to create public int target x. And here what we're going to do is we're going to say if rigid body dot x is less than target x rigid body dot position dot x. Oh, actually, it's just transform. This has nothing to do with the rigid body. I was just being weird. There we go. If transform dot position dot x is less than target dot x, then transform, and let's go ahead and just do it this way here, same way we did it before. So velocity x equals -1. Else if transform dot position dot x is greater than target x, velocity dot x equals 1. And then we say velocity equals velocity. There we go. Same thing as we did before, except for now we are setting a target position. So down here we're going to grab the horizontal, and then we're going to set the target x equal to the current x integer modified by that. So int current x equals mathf.round to int. It might be floor to int. I think it's round to int. We'll find out soon. Transform.position.x. And then below that we say if hors is less than 0, then target x equals current x minus 1. If hors is greater than 0, target x equals current x plus 1. So let's see how that works. It doesn't. Oh, because we forgot to lock the velocity down when we actually finish moving. So here we set the velocity, but then we continue to blow past it later on. So in order to deal with this, we actually want to check whether we've blown past the target. So if velocity dot x is greater than 0 and transform dot position dot x is greater than target x, transform dot position dot x equals target x. And then we do this exact same thing with negative velocities. And then we also have to set the velocity to 0. So we can actually combine these two statements, which is generally good practice. This will create this will create a slightly beastly statement, so it's worth considering whether you want to combine them or not. But in general, I try to combine my if statements whenever possible. So what we've just done is we've said if these two conditions are true or these two conditions are true. That means that we can take this and make this into an else, since it has no reason to be a standalone if. Oh, I can't set the x position. Same reason we have to remove the velocity out and then put it back in. So I have to transform dot position. Well, actually, since there's no velocity involved, let's just go ahead and do it the other way, which is to say new vector 3 target x transform dot position dot y and transform dot position dot z. This is the other way we could have done it, rather than extracting it and then putting it back in. The extraction is useful because it allows us to set it in these locations without having a long statement each time. But here I'll do it the other way with the creation of a new vector inside of the same line. I've been a little sick, so my voice is going. Sorry about that. Oh. Grr. Alright, so as it falls, you see how we can set it? Now, we have a couple of issues with this. One is that it's way over responsive. So let's go ahead and tone down the speed at which it moves left and right, which we can do simply by changing these values here. Let's say 0.25. Actually, why don't we use this as an opportunity to create a... no, we'll do that later. This is actually something that we want to have, might want to have change as the difficulty goes up, but for now it'll work fine. You're still moving much too fast. Why are you moving that fast? Is it because of this? Yes, it is. So it has nothing to do with our velocity and everything to do with our logic being wrong. So let's take a look and see why our logic is wrong. If we are moving right and we are further right than our target, that should be correct. Let's just go ahead and see what it's like if we comment this out. And this is a sort of logic debug that you have to get comfortable doing, because you'll always make some kind of logical mistake, especially when you're sick or low on caffeine. So it fails if we're going that way, but that's positive x. Are we on the wrong side with this? No. Are these things rotated? What's going on? Why is it? No. For some reason, it looks like the velocity might be inverted or something. I'm not sure precisely what's going on. Let me go ahead and figure this out. As you might have guessed, the problem was down here. I stupidly got those two backwards. So I was telling it to move left to go right and move right to go left, and it was going, okay, well, I'm already past the target location. So that's the sort of bug that you'll run into a lot, especially when you're just starting out. You'll accidentally invert to if statements or something, and you'll be like, "Why isn't it working?" And then you'll think it must be because there's a bug in the. No, there's no bug in the code in the program you're using, except if you're using monodevelop, when the answer is always close monodevelop and then reopen it. But it looks like I still have an issue here. So moving right works, but moving left causes it to freak out. Oh, I put a bug in during my debug process. There we are. So now you can see that it fluidly moves, but you can see that it moves really, really slowly. So here, we're going to change this from 1 to 4. And as it falls down here, still some physics though. Alright, so as you can see, while they lock into place while they are moving down, they quickly stop locking into place the instant that they actually hit something. So what we're going to do in the next episode is make it so that as they lock into place, they actually lock into place. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, but we have to be a little bit aware that there is a problem where if we are moving when we hit the surface, wah! And that's what happens when you fill up the screen so much that it has impacts the instant it spawns, which we'll have to put in a bug fix for later. Anyhow, if you hit the ground while you are moving, you might not be on an integer location, so you need to keep track of that, and we'll deal with that in the next episode.